Hey guys, Parfax here, and today I'm going to be bringing you a tip to save you a ton of coin in New World. All right, let's get started. All right, first I do want to say this tip, you are going to have to be over 600 gear score, but even if you are not, you can possibly, depending on what build you run, save some coin by buying some what people would think are maybe garbage items, and you can really utilize this to your advantage. Now, to kind of put a little backstory on this, I've been running Blunderbuss Ice Gauntlet. I was looking at upgrading my gear just a little bit. Wasn't looking to spend a ton of money right now. I currently have a ton of money wrapped up in actually like materials for next patch. But we were looking to even still get some upgrades to this build because I wanted to bring you guys a build video pretty soon on it. So I went over to the trading post, and realistically, we're looking for Resilient Leeching Shrapnel Blast. Now, with this setup, I don't really need any Legos, but we were looking, and we go to Head Armor, we go to Light, and then we had a 15,000 piece for Strength Con, but then Resilient Leeching Shrapnel Blast and Blight Resistance. So, essentially a 2-perker. And then we went to check a couple other things. We went to check, what was it? Chest Armor, Medium, and then we had a 25,000 for Strength Focus, Elemental Aversion, Resilient Leeching Shrapnel Blast. And this would probably be a ton more expensive if this was something like full strength, con, or int. But because it is off stat, they're like, nah, this piece of gear sucks. So I ended up buying a pair of boots that look very similar, or exactly similar, to the last piece of gear you looked at. That's Strength Focus, Leeching Shrapnel Blast, Resilient Elemental Aversion. Now, before you rip me apart in the comment section down below, let me explain to you what's going on here and why this tip right here can help you save a ton of coin. So when looking at our attributes here, you can still see we still hit our 200, 150, 150, even though we have a 10 stat off stat in our gear set. So how this works is every time you go and you put in points into another stat, you actually get 5 stat points. Now, when you look here, we have the 200 strength. But in order to get that 200 strength, you only need 195. We only need 145 to get to intelligence and 145 to get to con. Now, when it's all said and done, if you do a typical 300 to 200 split, you need 490 points to get there. Where if you're doing a triple split, you actually only need 485 points to get there. Now, you might be doing the math here and you're like, Parfax, you're still short. Well, because, and this is where I said, if you're over 600 gear score, this is where this will kick in. You need to get 5 stat points, extra stat points on your gear. So I have the Blunderbuss, the Ice Gauntlet, we have the pants, and we have all 3 pieces of our jewelry. So you can see that's where, when you're looking there, we have the 151. And that's because we do have 6 pieces of gear that are already over that stat threshold. Now, if you want to do something like, if you know, let's say you're running a bruiser build, and you're running 300, 200, or, 300, 200 here. Whatever you want to do, and you're only running 2 stats, you can actually still accomplish this. But all that means is whenever you go to buy this piece of gear, let's say I was running just a strength blunderbuss running 300, 200, instead of having 5 pieces of gear upgraded to the stat point extra, you'll actually need 10, all 10 pieces of gear. So if I was running 2 stat, if I had every piece of gear that I have, so if I had all my armor and jewelry to 623, and then we had my weapons to 619, it would then get me to that extra threshold I would need to be able to put on this piece of gear. This is especially during fresh start servers is going to be a massive, benefit to the people who are a little bit savvy and maybe watch these videos to get these super cheap discounted pieces. This was 5,000 coins. If this was straight strength, if this was straight int, if this was con, this would be a lot more than 5,000. This would probably be a 50, 60,000 piece. Who knows, maybe even more. But because it had 1 off stat and I was still able to abuse it, I got a piece of gear that was pretty crazy good for super cheap. Now, is this BIS? Of course not. We are missing out on stand attribute points. This is going to be equate to about 1% damage, or if I was to put it 1.5% damage. Now, let's put it in a con. I think it's like 100 health points or something like that. So honestly, not that noticeable at all. But it does give us the ability to buy a super nice piece of gear for actually super cheap. All right, guys, thanks. Oh, sorry. Before we actually end this video, the one thing I do want to note I was getting ready to do the outro there, is if you're going to buy an off stat, it needs to be the bottom stat is off stat. And you technically, I think, no, you can't actually get away with it if it's a top stat, even if you're doing 3 attributes. So it does need to be the bottom stat, has to be the off stat. So you can see the 10. If it was the 15, we wouldn't be able to get there because we would need 4 more pieces of gear, but the top number always upgrades. So if this was 15 focus, I would get 16 focus from it, and I would be 1 stat point short of actually getting to whichever of these stat points I needed to. So I'd either have 149 con, int, or 199 strength. So keep that in mind. So make sure you go ahead and abuse this. There was a chest piece on there that I probably could have bought for, you know, was it 20, 25,000, which would have been probably worth it as well. But this is a great piece of gear for me to find. Let me know in the comment section down below if you actually knew this, if this helped you at all. And go ahead and look on your market for some of those pieces of gear that you possibly weren't going to be able to afford. But now you can get a crazy good piece of gear for a lot cheaper. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, like always. And I'll see you next time. Peace.